The Bay Area was one of the places many people relocated after this storm. Devastated the eastern part of Louisiana, smashed Mississippi, and flooded New Orleans 5 years ago today. Kevin Lockeson grew up a part of New Orleans culture, even worked at a New Orleans restaurant.
In my mind, I didn't ever think I would leave. I was the New Orleans guy.
And yet,
5 years ago today, I was in my car.
Evacuating to Chicago as Hurricane Katrina destroyed his hometown.
I remember packing up whatever I could quickly, getting in the car and going.
Then he moved to Wesley Chapel permanently. He watched the flooding, the damage, the suffering in New Orleans from hundreds of miles away.
It was tough. It was incredibly emotional having to watch them unfold on TV.
Or in the newspaper.
And just showed everybody waiting for bus ride to God knows where.
Tampa freelance photographer Jessica Lee took some of the pictures Kevin saw in the newspaper. She was working as a photographer for the Shreveport Times back then and captured the desperation in New Orleans.
I just wanted to make sure people knew that there were people that were suffering and that had a hard time, and it wasn't their fault.
But interestingly, after 5 years, this photographer says it's not the sights she remembers most.
I remember the smells, unfortunately. Smell of urine in the Hyatt, smell of death in the city.
It was an unbelievably bad experience for a whole lot of people, me included.
But life moves on. Kevin now owns a business here, met a woman and married her. They have a 3-month-old daughter. He's not a big believer in it was meant to be, but admits it probably was meant to be, which perhaps explains why he and his wife named their daughter Katrina. Now, from personal experience, I was in Mississippi right after the storm. And remember, the eye of the storm never hit New Orleans. It hit Mississippi. And I'll never forget seeing the street right along the Gulf Coast for the first time after the storm, seeing these houses that had just been swept away, and all that was left behind was a slab of concrete. And I was utterly amazed at the power of Mother Nature.